This is a real casual discussion here. Just wanted to give some people like a peek behind the scenes of what's going on in the live stream industry. To like lay the groundwork, it's been kind of a niche thing for a long time, and then COVID-19 happened and it exploded. And a lot of people who were maybe standing on the edge of the pool thinking about jumping into live streaming were kind of pushed into the pool and had to figure out how to swim. And me, Jacob, Tom, and Eli all got like a firsthand account of that happening. And it's a very in-demand thing. And I'm sure many of you in your careers are going to have to integrate it in some way into what you do. I just wanted to give a brief note that this is being recorded. So if you do pop in later on Q&A, then you will be recorded. So just letting you know. And to start, I just want to let you know we can, if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A. Feel free to engage in the chat. And I'm curious, we've got a poll here. I'm curious, like, what best describes you. We've got A, you work in marketing or comms, and you're thinking like you may actually work with a production company and hire them and bring them in. Or B, you're interested in video production, you actually might want to work on a video production crew. Or C, both of those. Or D, if you're just kind of curious, you want to learn and maybe make a decision later. Cool. And while we've got that poll going, tell us in chat how like you think you might use live streaming in your career someday. And we'll check in on that. But first, I want to do some introductions for our awesome panel. So first, I'm going to introduce the one I've known the longest, which is Eli Stonberg. We met on a project for Reddit at Comic-Con, I want to say in 2019, hanging out with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which by hanging out, meaning we were like 100 yards away and he came in and left and we never talked to him. But Eli, yeah, give us a little brief rundown about Hovercast and what you're all about.
Hey, Richard, thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. So I'm the co-founder of Hovercast. We make live stream graphics possible kind of on any platform, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. And we do this for brands and politicians primarily. So this unlocks the ability to do what we call audience-powered live streams, ways of the audience manipulating a show in real time and ideally having meaningful impact on a show that can kind of change the outcome of a story, do a live choose your own adventure, ask Q&A questions with graphics that kind of are TV quality and show the names of the people participating. Yeah, it unlocks a lot of really interesting things for kind of the future of live TV.
Awesome. Thanks, Eli. And we will have everybody present. So Eli will be back. He's got a slide deck and we'll go a little deeper. So next I want to introduce Jacob, who I've known maybe now for 6 months or so. We've had some really great conversations about what's going on with live shopping. So Jacob, I want to give a really brief introduction about who you are and Bambuser.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so thanks for having me. Pretty honored to be here with you, Eli, and Tom. So I'm also a fellow Husky, but from the East Coast, Northeastern, over in Boston. I've been in the live shopping space for about 1.5 years now, which feels like ages since it's been evolving so quickly over the past couple of years. A little bit about Bambuser. We're the leading live shopping and video commerce provider. We help e-com focused brands and retailers really enhance their digital experience with interactive and shoppable video content that lives right on their site. We're based in Stockholm, so we are a Swedish company, but we do have global offices and clients really across various industries. Fashion and beauty, probably the most common ones that people associate with live shopping, but we work with folks in consumer electronics, pets, home and garden, and even automotive, and certainly plenty more to come as this industry really develops over time.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacob. And Jacob will have a presentation later. We'll get to hear a little more and go a little deeper. And last, we've got Tom from StageTEN. If you want to jump in, introduce yourself and tell us about StageTEN.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, it's great to be here with everybody. StageTEN started out as a content creator platform. So we allowed anybody to kind of harness the same power to do your live streams as you would if you had access to say a $5 million production studio somewhere. During the pandemic, as Richard mentioned in his earlier comments, got super crazy because everybody wanted to be live streaming to engage with their audience still. During that time, we were also in the process of launching our shoppable video product. So, over the past couple of years, as Jacob mentioned, very, very rapid developments in the live shopping world. So we focus kind of on low latency video, interactive video, helping creators monetize their live streams through merchandising products that they can sell. We've integrated with a couple of different catalogs, most notably Target's catalog, and basically every Shopify merchant can put their catalogs up and monetize their live streams through selling products. As mentioned, we tend to focus on interactive, engaging content. We don't feel that the future of live shopping is QVC style pitch programs. It's more engaging content, different formats, stuff that's going to keep the audience engaged and interested in buying.
Got to unmute myself there. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, and Tom's got a presentation as well, and we'll dive deeper there. I'm taking a look at the poll. It looks like we've got about 55% of the people work in marketing or comms and kind of want to learn how they might integrate it into their work. We don't have anybody who's interested in video production. But I guess C, we've got a few people who are both A and B, and then a couple people who are just curious. Cool. So we're about to move in. I'm going to start with a little bit about Relay Station and what we do there. But also, like, in the chat, tell us, like, what live streams do you watch? Do you, I don't know, watch esports, or do you watch talk shows? I'm curious if there are any web-based live streams that you have really enjoyed or that you watch regularly. Let us know in the chat and we'll check in on that a little later. So let me get situated here and share my screen. So yeah, as mentioned before, I founded a company called Relay Station. We do interactive live streams for retail brands to help showcase products, which is very adjacent to the live shopping. I'm kind of see us as being somewhere in between Hovercast and StageTEN and Bambuser. And let me get our slides advancing here. Oh, there we are. I wanted to share a little bit about some work we've been doing with Breville USA and Crate and Barrel. We've been doing a series of live barista classes and cooking classes. And I've got some screenshots here. You can see this is a class we did back in December at Crate and Barrel headquarters in Northbrook, Illinois. This was Chef Dan Churchill, and he cooked an apple bundt cake. And we set up our workflow in a way where we have an audience in Zoom that we bring into the broadcast. You can see we've got Dan in the bottom corner there. And then we also broadcast this out to YouTube. So we see the Zoom audience as like the virtual studio audience. And then YouTube is the broadcast audience. So kind of like, think like The Price is Right, when people are all excited in the crowd. That's like what Zoom is. And then the people watching The Price is Right from like their couch on the TV, that's how we see YouTube as functioning. And we can bring in remote callers and have them chat with the hosts, and the hosts have a little IFB system in their ear so they can hear the Zoom callers. And this is another class we did in the same studio. It was a coffee class with Andrea Allen. And she was I didn't know that this existed, but she's a barista champion, 2020, 2021. But yeah, there are barista championships, is a fun fact. And the focus of these shows is to showcase the products. So for the coffee shows, we're doing espresso machines. The cooking shows, it's a smart oven. And the interesting thing here, I'll dive into a little bit more, but that these are products that are kind of complex to use, and that the more that a consumer understands about the product, and the more enjoyment they get out of using it. And so these classes function in a way to, maybe there are people who are on the fence about making a purchasing decision. And once they have access to this information, they feel more comfortable buying it. Or another common thing is like someone might have been given this as a gift and they don't really know how to use an espresso machine, and it sits there and they use it maybe once or twice a month. A class like this can empower somebody to now have the knowledge and competency to use it more often and get more enjoyment out of it. And you can see here's a little close-up of the smart oven. Same thing here with the smart oven. Like cooking is an art, and the more that you understand about cooking, the more fun you're going to have with it. And so these brands, Crate & Barrel and Breville, are able to associate themselves with being a source of learning in a fun, engaging way. More close-ups of the espresso machine here. This is one of the finished drinks. This was a s'more coffee drink. It's pretty cool. And this is just a close-up of Dan showing the cutting technique for this apple as he was preparing his apple bundt cake. And we had an overhead camera where we could get him stirring, or it's just a nice shot to have in a cooking show. And this is a little behind the scenes photo. You could see we've got a couple monitors set up for them. One of them, we use a software called StageTEN, where we can put a little timer and some notes. I'm actually have that in front of me right now, so I can see we've got about 4 minutes left on my little piece here. And then we also send what's called a program return. You can see that in the very bottom right corner. That's where the on-camera talent can see what's actually live, so that they know how to appropriately respond. Like if it's a close-up, they know to be really still with their hand. If they see a remote caller on, they know that they're talking to somebody. If they see a full screen slide, they know maybe they can scratch their nose for a second because they're not live. And let's see. Another little behind the scenes look here. And this is a shot of our camera operator. And then that's me from behind, using a software called vMix, which is one of the industry standard mixing softwares. If anybody is curious, there's a high demand for vMix operators. So if you know anybody who's like video editor or very creative and technical, and they're looking for something, I would definitely recommend vMix as something for people to learn. And this is a little behind the scenes of a Miro board of how we thought about the audience of these shows. So we started on the very left is somebody who like knows nothing, but they enjoy drinking coffee. And we kind of moved down the line where they kind of advance in competency, and all the way on the right, like the furthest to the right, the paradigm is like somebody who's like a master barista. They own their own coffee shop. They're a high-level leader at the coffee company that they own or that they're employed at. And right in the middle, you see this black line, and that's splitting up the home domain on the left and the industry domain on the right. And the way that we think about these shows is everyone to that left of the line are people that we're targeting with these classes. These are all people that this content is very relevant to. And the goal with these classes is to advance people up the line. So like if somebody's coffee curious, maybe they've been a barista at home, they made espresso a little bit. We want to get them up to like being a passionate beginner or maybe an average skill new barista by offering this content. And then similarly, the value we're offering for the instructors is that the currency in today's world is being able to have legitimacy. So being in a position where a barista can come in, teach a class for a major brand like Crate & Barrel and Breville, lends itself to them. Now they can have some stuff they can post on LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever, and they are now able to like put that on their CV of like, hey, I led this class for this brand. So this is how we kind of tease out the value for everybody in this ecosystem that's involved in the show. And I've got, this is my last slide here. Another way we were looking at the value of these shows is this is using a model from the book Value Proposition Design. You can see in the top right by a company called Strategizer. And it's a little brainstorming technique where we split out the pains, gains, and jobs of a viewer. And this particular one that you see here, we're looking at like the coffee curious beginner student. And so we brainstormed like all the gains that this could provide for somebody. Like it's easier for them to learn from home. They're getting higher quality for their investment. They get recognition from people in their lives for their skills, that type of thing. And we went all around this model to do the same for brainstorming pains in their lives around coffee, and the same for jobs, like what are their roles and responsibilities in their lives. So yeah, that's a brief overview of our projects with Crate and Barrel and Breville. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen here and see if oh, there was a poll there. Yeah, thank you for launching that. I'm just curious if before we move on, if anybody has any questions. Just give it a few seconds here. I can see it looks like looking at the poll here, it looks like people have attended a got about 38% of people have attended a live stream virtual class. And then about 13% said they would like to, but haven't yet. And then about half the people said they're on the fence, they might, but they'd really have to be passionate about it. Cool. Well, it looks like we don't have any questions for Q&A right now, so we will move on over to Eli and Hovercast. So take it away, Eli.
Richard. Hey everyone. So I have a little deck I can share. Okay. Yeah, so as I mentioned, we make audience-powered live streams possible. This is mainly through graphics that integrate with that tool that Richard was talking about, vMix, but we can also plug into various other encoders. And this is kind of what it looks like. We make polls on screen and other widgets. And we like to do this for kind of the world's biggest shows. This is an example of E3, which is on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Facebook, all at the same time. And you can see there's a poll going. We're polling the audience via chat on those platforms. So we're platform agnostic, and we kind of, because we deal with marketing, and oftentimes marketers want to market on the places where the audiences already exist, and that's these major platforms like YouTube and Twitch. So we basically like amplify those platforms. We kind of hack them to make them more interactive than they really are. And it's pretty fun stuff. As I mentioned, it works with any tool. And you can see how this kind of works on YouTube. Here's a poll for a friend's reunion party. People are voting in the chat of YouTube and influencing the poll in real time. One of the things we do often is interactive fundraisers. We primarily work with Democratic politicians because what we can do there is integrate ActBlue donations. So the donor information is displayed on screen. Here's an example of Superbad watch party. A few interactive things are going on at once here. Basically, we're taking a zoom and making it look fancy. There's a video playing. There's a donation meter that shows a goal that they're trying to hit. We have a featured chat here with a Q&A for the cast, captioning, and then my favorite part is down here is showing donor names in a creative way that fits into the movie that they're talking about. We wouldn't do that for everything, but it was fun in example. So a lot of times with our political work, it's kind of the intersection of entertainment and politics. We've worked with the cast of Hamilton, the cast of Elf, do a lot of these kind of like fun table read shows. And then when, I think this is kind of obvious, but when you prompt the audience to do something meaningful, the engagement goes way up. I definitely recommend it. Richard's doing a good job in this section, asking polls. Polls are really effective on screen. This is a fun example of the case study I really wanted to highlight today, which is a show we did for YouTube called Escape from 2021. They had previously done something called YouTube Rewind, which was like a 10-minute video at the end of every year that kind of cobbled together the best moments from YouTube creators. And in 2021, they decided to do a 24-hour live stream. And they had the same idea where it was different segments for different creators, but this time it was all live and interactive. And each segment was very interactive. Like this one you can see was a choose your own adventure music video with Olivia Rodrigo. The audience in real time got to change what style of music the kind of radio would tune to next, which was really cool. And I'll skip over to more about this. There was like a concert that happened in Minecraft that was also interactive. Apparently it was the most active YouTube chat of all time. And I think the key reason for that is that the audience, the interactivity and the audience interaction was actually significant. It was consequential to the show. They got to make choices like, which should we crush, the Jenga tower or the Rubik's Cube? And then they would choose something and it would happen, which is kind of awesome. I mean, that's like interactive superpowers for the audience. And we love that stuff. One of my favorite segments of this show was they got a great freestyle rapper named Harry Mack, and they asked the audience to submit words that he would rap to. And in real time, we used our software to moderate and curate those words, display them as graphics, and then he would be rapping in real time to that content. So that's this kind of like reducing the barrier between audience and show that our company is sort of all about. And yeah, I guess I'll leave it there. I'm not sure how I'm doing on timing, but I'll just highlight that one case study for today.
Nice, thanks, Eli. Yeah, and if anybody has any questions, what we could do for Eli, feel free to throw them in the chat or raise your hand. See if anything comes through. But yeah, to your point, Eli, the adding in that audience interaction and the engagement. There's something about like I've thought about the analogy of like when I'm driving on a freeway and just kind of cruising and you kind of like space out versus when you're driving like downtown in traffic and a lot of different things to pay attention to. It's like the more you're giving the audience to engage with, the more they're actually like actively listening and part of the show rather than maybe spacing out, scrolling on Instagram or something.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's half of the battle. And then the other half is, as a show, can you take that engagement and change your show, manipulate your show to reward them for their participation, you know, because just asking them to participate and spam the chat is low-hanging fruit, but is not that feedback loop that happens when you give them a prompt, they do it, and then you change the show in order to appease their wishes, basically, and give them a sense of agency in what they're doing, which I think can be really exciting and is kind of unexplored territory. I mean, it happens on Twitch. Twitch streamers talk to their chat all the time, but I think for like brands and kind of bigger shows, it's kind of still in the TV model of like a little bit scared to take feedback from the audience in real time, and we're always pushing our clients to kind of go further there.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story I remembered this morning of on that Reddit show. And it was a meaningful experience for me that like, and of course Reddit would make this decision because they know the internet so well, but they weren't afraid. I don't know if you remember this, but they asked a negative question to Arnold Schwarzenegger of it was promoting the new Terminator movie at the time, and they said someone in Reddit asked, is this movie going to be as bad as the last one? And they weren't afraid to actually like say that live on the show. And I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger had this awesome, like, it takes just as much energy to be negative as it does to be positive. And like, I mean, he's a pro. He's in politics and he's been an actor. He handled it really well. But like taking that risk is like adds a lot of authenticity to your brand. And you're right. A lot of brands are afraid to actually do that.
Yeah, I think so. It's why Reddit AMAs are so exciting. Is like, you get really insightful questions, but you also get the silly Reddit stuff, and the idea of asking Barack Obama, is a hot dog a sandwich, is kind of fun. And I love to, that's why I love to incorporate the audience participation into Q&As and things like that. As long as, it's safe for your brand. You can't use every question, and obviously don't want to use trolling. And that's part of our feature set. It's the ability to really curate the content that you want to be displayed on screen.
Yeah, that's the big brands, and especially political. That's like the big question is like, how do we stop the trolls? And so it's good to have tools like that for sure. Thanks, Eli. We'll chat a little bit more at the panel at the end. But next up, we've got Jacob with Bambuser, and I'll get your presentation here going.
Awesome. Thank you, Richard, and definitely agree a lot on the engagement piece there. And I think to give you guys an idea of the difference between us and Hovercast, at least, is we are much more focused on sales when it comes to working with brands and retailers and driving revenue for the brands we work with. So just kind of an overview here. We've won a few awards for our work, but you can hop over to the next slide, Richard. I tried to shift this away from sales pitch and more educational type overview. So hopefully I accomplished that goal here. Bit of an overview of the video commerce market in general. It's expected to hit 68 billion by 2025. We've seen that over 50% of US shoppers have actually watched a live shopping stream, which is definitely a good trend, of course. Shoppers are slowly getting accustomed to this type of format, which is great for brands looking to get started, but certainly nervous about adoption, which is a huge hesitation with a lot of the companies that I'm talking to. Specific to what Bambuser has seen with our platform, we've actually seen viewership grow 200% year over year. And it really is a bit of a long-term strategy consideration when it comes to live shopping and video commerce. And as it's developing and evolving, we've even switched our terminology from live shopping specifically more to video commerce, because there's so many more ways that you can start to use this interactive and shoppable video elements across the digital journey, as opposed to just the singular live events where there's repurposing and recycling content, again, kind of across the site overall here. And I think there is a poll. Oh, great to see the numbers already steering towards yes. So that's definitely good to see. I know it's happening more and more. We can hop to the next slide, Richard, to jump into the case. Perfect. So Pi Skincare, they are an organic skincare brand built for sensitive skin. We've been working with them for a couple of years now. And back in 2021, 10% of their total online revenue was actually generated through live shopping with Bambuser, which is something we're certainly very proud of here. So really how they get there, of course, a combination of things. Conversion rates through this channel were able to reach around 17%, It's close to a 10x boost from standard conversion rates we see of around 1 to 2% for kind of normal site conversion rates. And this is certainly not an uncommon result with live shopping of that 17% and can certainly reach a bit higher as well. And as they stuck with it, they were able to grow their audience. Again, what I mentioned before, kind of this long-term strategy, building that consumer behavior. People start to expect this type of content and more people join in. You get the word of mouth going. And it's a really nice combo when you're getting more people to show up with these higher conversion rates. It's definitely good for business there. And again, going back to, I think, the engagement and interactive piece that Eli was talking so much about, you can see here they had about 1 in 4 people engaging in the chat, and that's done through various ways, really engaging with the experience. We have live polls within our platform, where as companies are going through the live stream, they can activate a poll, and they're getting real-time feedback from their customers as well, which is super valuable for them to learn what their customers like, what they don't like, any trends they may not be aware of. And overall, there's much more engagement in the chat, and it kind of leans towards more building your community, where it's super valuable to have not only the brand talking about how great they are through these experiences and educating their audiences, but when you have peers in the chat talking about how they use the products in their everyday life, providing testimonials as they're all watching together, that can be extremely powerful. And I'm sure we can all think of a few times we've purchased something because of a friend's recommendation. So overall, this type of experience with this live shopping element, the shoppable video piece where products are accessible directly from the content, provides a lot less friction in the buying process overall. So in real time, you're getting valuable product knowledge that current PDPs aren't necessarily providing. It goes a bit beyond just measurements, sizes, colors, and things of that nature. A lot of that info that people are looking for before they actually click purchase. There's trustworthy social proof readily available to them. And then, of course, as I mentioned, less clicks to buy overall. And that whole combination there with a just much more pleasant experience for the shoppers is how this type of strategy can contribute to 10% of your total online revenue. And I think it's something we're going to see more and more of, and certainly excited to see how brands start to implement it in the future. As I imagine a year or two from now, companies are going to be doing things we haven't even thought of yet, as it is such a rapidly developing space overall. And I guess we can go one more slide, a bit of a teaser kind of touching upon that piece here. They also do something which I think is really cool, is they took a shorter snippet from a longer form video and actually put it in their PDP here. So even if someone's not aware of the live streams or shoppable videos that live on their site, if they're just browsing, they stumble upon this rose hip by Regenerate, they have a little 2-minute snippet of the Pi Skincare founder actually talking through the value and benefits of the product itself. So again, kind of taking the knowledge and education to the next level, providing a much better shopping experience for these customers, and again, building that trust, enabling them to really be driven to purchase that product. And that is what I got. Rushed through it a bit there, but I'm not sure if there are any questions.
No, that's great, man. I've thought of the analogy, like, I don't know if this happens so much anymore, but like the door-to-door salesperson showing up at someone's house and like demoing a product vacuum cleaner or whatever. But like the way that analogy like holds is that it's demonstrating something, but it's different here because people are actually, instead of you going to them, they're actually like coming to your site to watch. They're making that choice. And like for a lot of these, I know when I've made big purchases like a mattress, I go and watch a bunch of videos online and see demos. And the power of this is like now these brands can own the content of that and like shape that content. It's not some third party who's putting that content out. But then also they could bring in an influencer or somebody who has a following and have those partnerships they can be part of that live shopping. I
Yeah.
was curious, you may have a response to that, but I was curious, like in terms of the businesses and brands that choose to do this, do you notice a pattern like in their culture of the people who choose to do live video on their sites versus not, and like what their brand strategy and like may tie to wanting to use live video on their sites?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for us specifically, it's important for them to be prioritizing D2C, as that's a lot of value comes from that, building out their D2C channels and already probably having a video content strategy in place or already considering that. Companies that are a bit more mature in their technological stack and their site is a bit more, I don't want to say advanced, but they're kind of ready to take something like this on, because there is something to be said for the lift with building the content, finding the right hosts, and figuring out a proper schedule to make sure this does go off the ground, as it is something you need to commit to, as it's a bit of a snowball effect over time where you're not just going to flip a switch and all of a sudden sales are going to come pouring in, but it builds on top of each other. So it's something that brands do need to take a bit seriously, and really build out kind of a long-term kind of thought process for how they do want to implement this.
Nice.
And I think Eli, as a quick to answer your question there, something very common we get all the time is how do we get people to show up? There's a few different ways. Certainly, really distributing through the marketing mix overall is just the best ways they're already interacting and getting in touch with their customers to tell them about exciting things they have going on. Starting to promote these events can be a bit more appealing. Certainly during product launches or holiday events are good kind of ways to get people excited. And this is just kind of a better way to have those product launches or make the most of the holidays. Our platform allows you to multi-stream through social channels as well. So as they're going live on their own sites, they can also capture those audiences from Facebook, YouTube, and other channels and use that to actually drive them back to their site, where again, their customers are most valuable to them because they have much more control over the user experience. They have control over the content and the customer data itself, where social not so much on the social channels that they're leveraging. And we also have another feature, we call it our floating action button. So if someone's just browsing the site in general and they happen to go live, there's a little pop-up that will actually show, hey, we're live, and captures a lot of organic traffic on the site for the folks that are already shopping on the site, but may not actually be aware of the live stream that is going on. So definitely a few different ways and something that's developing over time.
Awesome. Thanks, Jacob. We'll chat a little more in the panel at the end. I do want to jump over to Tom and hear a little bit about StageTEN. So I'll get your
Yeah,
slides
actually, I
up
feel like
here.
I don't really have to go because Jacob said a lot of what I was going to say.
I'm sure you have plenty to add. Let's see. Here we go.
So yeah, StageTEN is also in the live shopping space, live commerce space. Similar to Jacob, we see that there's, live shopping is only one implementation of live commerce. There's lots of different channels you can go down. So we're exploring a bunch of those, but kind of the early adopters are jumping into this live shopping space. StageTEN started out around 2015 as a production company, a creative production house. We were doing lots of productions for TV, for different internet formats. What happened was our founder, Dave, he was creating a show. For lack of a better term, it was like a virtual online gong show. He wanted the audience to be able to direct the gong on the talent. And he couldn't find a tool to allow him to do that. So he went away and created StageTEN over the next couple of years. And the first generation of our creator platform came out in 2019, January of 2019. So over 2019, we were building up. We became the #1 live streaming tool for creators on YouTube. We had hundreds of thousands of users around the world, everything from church services to kids streaming their video games to guys trading crypto in Brazil going live every day. So while all this was going on, we were servicing these hundreds of thousands of users. We were sitting there thinking to ourselves, this is great, but all these people are creating content. They're not monetizing it. They're not getting paid to do it. Then the pandemic hit, and we no longer were working with church services and guys trading crypto in Brazil and video game streamers. We started getting calls from some of the biggest talent in the world, like John Krasinski for Some Good News. Gwyneth Paltrow was doing live shows with Goop. Chrissy Teigen did a bunch of shows. Dr. Fauci even got vaccinated for COVID live on StageTEN. So while this was happening, we're getting all of this great traction with big name celebrities. Even people like Mr. Beast were using our platform. We won Streamy Awards for shows we created with him. So all this was going on. We knew it was going to come to an end. I don't think anybody even expected it was going to go 2.5 years, which it has. But we were watching this phenomenon in China that, the live stream shopping was just absolutely massive over there. Billions of dollars of sales on their Singles Day in November. Things like that, $15 million worth of cars sold in a 24-hour period. Can you hit the next slide, Richard? And we were watching this absolutely massive market unfold in China, and we started thinking, we have to give our creators the ability to monetize their content through the sale of merchandise. So we started looking at ways to do that. We released our initial integration with Shopify in, I believe, late 2020 or early 2021. And then we also released an integration with Target. We do all the Target live shopping shows now. And most recently in February, we've launched what we're really excited about. Kind of goes back to Eli's question about how do you drive that initial audience, which everybody is struggling with. Mr. Beast can go live eating a bowl of porridge and 1 million people are going to watch it, but he's probably the only one who can do that. So we were looking at ways to increase that initial audience. And we found an opportunity, or we had an opportunity to integrate with the Shopify Shop app, which has 100 million install base. They have great AI that they can use. They basically know everything about every purchase that's ever happened on that app. So we're really excited to leverage the power of that AI now. When one of our merchants is going live on the shop store, Shopify can interrogate their previous behaviors and blast out notifications. So maybe I bought a box of golf balls 2 weeks ago. I'll get a notification saying, hey, Titleist is going live on the shop app. They're selling drivers. We thought you might be interested. Why don't you come check it out? So we're in the early days of that integration. That's just launched. We're hoping that helps to build those initial audiences. And much like what Jacob's seeing, adoption is slow, but we believe this is a long tail game. And we think the content needs to be engaging and fun. And that's what we're encouraging our audiences to do, both on our Target shows and with our Shopify merchants. Can you hit the next slide, Richard? Next one. I'll skip over this one. Next one. So this is a show that we did with the Gronks. Everybody knows Rob Gronkowski. Him and his brothers have a Shopify brand called Ice Shaker. They're drink bottles. We did a really fun interactive show with them. The 4 brothers were in their own homes, all different parts of the country. We brought them all together in a virtual environment. They played a game of cups. They were stacking cups. There was challenges, interactivity, polling the audience. What do you want to see me do? The audience was voting on punishments for whoever lost a round of cups, things like that. Ultimately, they found that they increased we had an 11% conversion rate, and they increased their sales during that hour of their show by 74%. If you hit the video, Richard, it should play and just give you a little bit of an example of kind of that fun, engaging, interactive content that we want to create.
Yeah, I got a PDF from you, so it was just all image based. Or is there a link?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's okay. I mean,
we'll have to we
work.
could share a link out to people, or I could.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
It was just a fun show with the brothers. Rob lost a round and he was supposed to eat an onion, but he didn't have a raw onion in his house. So it the audience voted again, and it got to be, well, he had to take a scoop of dry protein powder, and he did it. Just, you know,
Nice.
brothers having fun with each other and interacting. And ultimately it drove sales.
Sometimes it's the simplest human things that can be the most engaging, of like you're saying, just a couple of brothers kind of goofing around, for sure.
That's it, exactly. You know, that's kind of their brand. It's fun, it's irreverent, and they definitely were great hosts. And people were, you know, what we find is that people buy in this format because they want interaction with the host, particularly if it's an influencer or a celebrity. They want to get shouted out. Our platform, it notifies the host when somebody has made a purchase, so they can say, "Hey, Richard, thanks for buying that. Hope you really enjoy it." And we find, particularly in shows we've done with Mr. Beast, people buy specifically for that reason, because he might mention their name on the stream. This is another example of a show we did. This was very early in the COVID days. We won a Streamy Award for this show. We produced it. It was built on our platform. We raised $7 million for the World Health Organization in about 2 hours. Mr. Beast brought together 32 other top creators, and they played rock, paper, scissors. Lots of fun. Mr. Beast's a great host. Everybody knows that. So yeah, just another example of the different formats of shows that we find is driving engagement and pushing people to make purchases. We always say that the purchase shouldn't be the main reason people come for the content. It should be the content that makes them want to purchase.
Nice. Tom, I'm curious what, like, working with Mr. Beast, like your team, like I found out about him like a year ago and had to catch up, but like such a genius when it comes to like thinking about delivering content. And like his medium is typically like engaging the viewer all throughout a video, but like in making certain like editing decisions. So when you're live, some of that you can't do that type of editing, but like those gaps, all this interactive stuff we're talking about, you have that stuff ready. That's how you fill those gaps, and that's how you keep things engaged. Like, what was it like? Because I don't know if he had done much live stuff.
I think I think the Creator Games was the first live show he hosted, and it was definitely interesting. But you know, what we found with Mr. Beast, with John Krasinski, they were great hosts because you know, the online environment, it's not real controlled. You're not in control of every aspect of things the way you are in a soundstage in a TV studio. So the internet can go out, you could lose a guest, like all kinds of things can happen. The best hosts are the ones who know how to react to those situations. Mr. Beast, he actually made our director of the show somewhat of a celebrity herself. Like the next day she was trending on Twitter and things like that, because he would call out to her, "Hey, let's bring in the next 2 participants, Sonia," and things like that. So that's just the power that Mr. Beast wields. And, you know, he reacts very well to situations, and he was a great host.
That's awesome.
We
Yeah,
subsequently did another show with him where he sold Lamborghinis.
Okay.
$35 to enter a draw for a Lamborghini, but most of them were like Matchbox Lamborghinis. There was like 30 remote control Lamborghinis, but there was 2 real ones as well. And people were just throwing money at him. He made a fantastic amount of money in 60 minutes doing that show.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Just any interview I've seen with him, his knowledge and like intuition about human psychology and of like what people want to see and hear and what they're going to be entertained by just blows my mind. So it's cool to hear how he applied that mindset to a live show.
Yeah, and the one thing that we find is the best. Mr. Beast is a notable exception, but the biggest influencers don't necessarily make the best live stream hosts. You know, if you follow the Chinese model, what happened in China on Taobao, the best live stream hosts actually became the influencers. So they actually created academies to train people how to be a live stream host, and those are still going in China now.
That's really interesting. Eli mentioned earlier about Twitch streamers being familiar, and I've noticed that on a lot of shows I work with, when the talent, people on camera are Twitch streamers, they get it immediately, know all the interaction. When they've maybe been in TV or film, some of them, especially when they're older, like they don't get it. They don't get that like they're having this conversation. They're used to like pitching their thing right to camera, one-way communication. And so yeah, that, I mean, we've been hitting on this the whole time, is that interactive element is so important, and that can be a challenge, like for someone like us when we're working with clients, like trying to communicate to them how important that is, that some people are more open to that than others. And I'm sure we've all kind of experienced that, of like trying to get people to understand, like, yeah, be a little more authentic, take the risk.
Absolutely. What we're really creating is a virtual world that takes you back to the old experience of going to the mall and having a preferred salesman at the shoe store who knew you and knew your style and could recommend brands to you.
For sure. Awesome. Well, thanks, Tom. I want to see if anybody has any questions here. It looks like a majority of the people, we had a poll of like people would be more likely to purchase from an online store if it had live video, and it looks like 83% said yes. So there were a few people that said no. I'm kind of curious as to why they wouldn't. Let's see. Oh, Eli has a question. Is the clickable live shopping happening on Shopify or your app?
The actual transaction happens directly on Shopify, but it's powered by our app. We fully integrated with the Shopify checkout flow. So in terms of the fulfillment of the order, that all comes through Shopify, but it is based on the action that's happening in our player.
Cool. Nice. Well, people who are making things happen in the background, I think we can bring everybody up, have a panel here, and we've got about like 8 minutes. So if anybody does have questions for us, put them in. We'll be sure to answer that. I had picked out a few topics, but I had said how COVID changed live streaming. I think we did touch on that already. We've touched a little bit on the misunderstandings. I think given amount of time, I'd like to start about like trends for this year and coming up in coming years, which is perfect. Britt in the chat just asked, what do you think about the future market for live streaming e-commerce in the US? Tom, since you were just going, I don't know if you want to follow up, and then we can go to Jacob. And
Yeah,
Eli,
sure. I mean, I think what Jacob mentioned, that it's a long game. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. I think we've kind of been hurt a little bit by, if you remember back 12 or 18 months ago, every article said, you have to be doing this live shopping, $1 trillion in sales in China, things like that. I think a lot of merchants thought they were going to do one show and sell billions of dollars in one show, and that was it, rather than gauging the success and understanding that you have to build an audience over many shows, and that this type of behavior was a new one for North America and for Europe. So really, what we always encourage our merchant partners, our brand partners to do is it has to be a program. It has to be an integrated marketing plan around live shopping. It can't be a one-off. Very similar to TV. Imagine if they did just the pilot episode of Seinfeld. It would have failed badly.
Exactly. Yeah, I think especially this format, it's a little different, but like Spotify just made a big deal for video podcasts. So this format of like long form and then like medium form content going out on like YouTube and Facebook, and then super short form content. So it's like this wider ecosystem of having the events that schedule at certain times and then repurposing that content to help market and get excitement for people for future events. And like to talk a little bit about the future, I know Amazon has Amazon Live. It's not something people really, I never really tune into Amazon Live, and I don't know many people who do, but they're dipping their toes in, and Pinterest has Pinterest TV, and they're starting to get into that live shopping world. So we're seeing platforms starting to integrate it into their plan. And I think it's like only a matter of time before, and I guess we'll find out, it's kind of a mystery now, but whatever it is that takes people to the place where it becomes more commonplace. I don't know, Jacob, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with all of that. I think there's a hot stat going around now where about 80% of internet traffic is through video. So it's become a lot less of oh, this might be cool to have and test out in a few years, which I think was kind of the overall consensus last year. And it's shifted much more into, we need to be looking at video and streaming to keep up with the consumer demands, especially a lot of the companies that are trying to figure out how to attract Gen Z, this upcoming generation that's becoming more and more of a market for them. And like Tom said, I agree with everything he said. And it's also important to test different strategies, different types of hosts, different types of content, so you can figure out what works as well. But I don't think it's going away. I think it's just going to become more and more prevalent in so many different types of ways that we're going to see down the line.
Eli, do you have anything you see in your crystal ball for what's coming up in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to see more because we are not a like live shopping company yet, but you know, brands are starting to make bigger kind of entertainment shows with and want a shoppable component, and it's a really interesting problem for them because um, some of the native platforms have shoppable features, but they're restrictive and they have specific flavors of buttons and also these brands want to do a show that's on multiple platforms at once. So there's really kind of interesting kind of custom solutions needed depending on what folks want. But I think I don't know, all roads lead to shoppable with interactive. I think it's inevitable and it's definitely here to stay and will be a thing in the future.
For sure. And Tom, you mentioned AI a little bit, which is like, for me personally, I've become vastly interested in that in the last couple of months. And I think that we'll see another one of the things we don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but that matched with large data sets of people's shopping habits with live video, I think something there is going to emerge for sure. I think someone had their hand raised, but
Yeah, hi, I'm Joanna, and thank you all for sharing this information. I have some experience working as a live stream producer in an electric car company in China before. So we basically live stream for some press conferences or some media workshop just for brand exposure. And the other important part is to sell our new model through live stream. But sometimes people need more time to like considering buying the the car thing like instead of some normal daily stuff. So I feel like sometimes it's really hard to track their some engage the people through live stream, and also it's hard to track their interest and progress as a follow-up to let them like schedule a free trial for our new model through live stream. So I'm curious about if you have any suggestion or some insights about when it comes to promote some like a little bit expensive thing, like not necessary things through live stream. Do you have like any other better live stream strategy regarding this? Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick, Joanna, thanks for sharing. I'm curious if you could briefly like what is the nature of the shows you're doing? Like when you're live streaming, is it a walkthrough of the car? Or do you have somebody driving around, or what do you?
Yes, basically we both do. I work with our sales team, so we have some live stream just driving through the road and to to show the functions and the interior design of our car, to show like how we differentiate from other electric car. We basically show this. Yeah, and we also set some like polls and awards from the live stream to engage them. But yeah, there's not always so many people watching our lives.
And yeah, how long have you been doing it?
For half a year, because I was just starting a new live stream team in Guangzhou, China, and it's a totally new team, and we don't have much experience in doing this. So yeah, we're just trying to find things on the model.
Okay. So yeah, about half a year and kind of showing the features. I don't know, Tom or Jacob, do you have anything from your perspective you'd offer?
Luxury goods are a very interesting one. I do know that Volkswagen, the Volkswagen partnership with the Chinese government, did do a live stream where they sold $15 million worth of cars in 24 hours. So obviously there is a way to do it. I'm not exactly sure the particulars of that show, but I know they were deeply discounting the product if you bought it in that time period.
Yeah, I can add something too, where an automotive company that we work with, they go live 9 times a week, and they essentially have a digital showroom where they have a host with an iPad just walking around, talking through the features of the car, answering questions live, going back to that engagement, giving people shout outs. And they're not necessarily looking at it as a conversion tactic. So with these kind of more higher price luxury items, it's just as valuable, if not more valuable, to just drive people into the dealership and get those one-on-one appointments. So they're interacting with your sales folks who have that product knowledge, and they're having more intimate conversations about it. And that's where the conversion happens. So they're much more focused on just driving one-to-one appointments, getting people to show up to the dealership. And I think that kind of goes across the board for just higher price items, higher consideration, where you're not watching 10 seconds of a clip and buying a car right away. So that's how we've seen it in the space for higher ticket items.
That is a great point. The other thing that we find with, not only higher priced items, basically anything that's featured in a live stream, we're seeing uplift on those products sold in store and online just in the days following the live stream. So sometimes people will tune into the live stream, find out what they want to know about the product, maybe aren't ready to pull the trigger, but the next day they are, and they'll go buy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm reminded of a quote. I forget who said this, but it was a branding advertising quote. And they said that car commercials weren't necessarily to try to sell more cars. It was more to reinforce to the people who already bought the car that they made a good decision. So I just thought of that. And I'm trying to think of how you might apply that to live streaming about the cars. But I'm curious, maybe there may be a way to, if people have made purchases at all, Joanna, like if you could follow up with them and maybe find out about what it was that got them most excited about it, and then try to like integrate that into your plan. Or if people, even just your most engaged viewers, and make a way to have a wider community that people can stay involved in between your shows. So just like an internal message board somewhere, Facebook group or something, essentially giving a place for the people who are most excited about it to like keep engaging with you even when you're not live. And I know we're a little past time here. Eli, I don't know if you have anything to add to the car discussion or not, or if you have I know you did
Not
some
really,
stuff.
although if it were me, I would do like flash deals that are exclusive to the live stream. Have to buy it at that moment. I think that is a reason to tune in the first place, and probably a reason to buy. So I think that could be pretty exciting.
Yeah, the exclusivity of leaning into the
And
live.
the FOMO.
Yeah. That's like when I think like the classic live broadcast is sports, and like the appeal of watching a live sports is that you don't know who's going to win. You don't know what's going to happen. And anything you could do to add to your live stream that like, if ask yourself the question, I guess, as you're doing these, like, could this have been pre-recorded? And if so, then start asking questions like, what are things that can only happen while we're live? And that's the type of thing that like could potentially it creates like this gravity that draws people in and makes them want to engage more. But yeah, we are at the end of the show here. Thank you everybody for showing up, and thank you Eli, Jacob, and Tom for attending. This was really fun to geek out on live streaming. It's still a little bit of a niche thing, and so it's cool to get our brains together and chat about what's going on in the industry. Anybody who's here can find me on LinkedIn and feel free to add me and shoot any questions. I don't know, Tom, Jacob, Eli, if you have any preferred social channels that people should reach out.
Yeah, LinkedIn's fine for me as well.
Yeah, same here.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
This was fun.
Thanks all.